Good afternoon and welcome to Super Talk Outdoors, where every single Monday at lunchtime we celebrate the world-class outdoors of the state of Mississippi, because this is the capital of the outdoors in America. Man, we are so lucky to live here. And as we'll discuss here in just a second, I've spent a little bit of time up in the Mississippi Delta this weekend. We had a great time. It was hot. I've never seen so much corn, but, we'll chat with my guest about that here shortly. But listen, we've got a great show today, someone that I really enjoy visiting with. And he's someone who really travels the world, sort of speaking up for hunters. And we'll remind you what he is all about when we get him on the show here. But his global nonprofit Blood Origins has been doing some extremely important work. And without any further ado, let me bring my friend Robbie Kroger back to the show. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you, Ricky. It's been too long, man. I was waiting for my invite, and finally it came. I was like, it's like a golden ticket, like the Willy Wonka golden ticket. Finally, I got my invite back.
Hey, listen, Robbie, I followed you closely during all this time, and I forgot to go back and look at the last time you and I talked, but certainly you've been on many times. You've got a great story, but your Blood Origins effort continues to build steam. And what I love about what you've done, and it literally is a global story of hunting, is that I'm a former publisher. You know, I spent an entire career talking about how to tell stories and inspiring people with stories that ultimately drive action. It drives me on this show, to be quite honest with you. But that storytelling part of what you do, and we should probably go ahead and remind people who have not heard us talk before what Blood Origins is all about. But it's an incredibly important effort, and it continues to get more important with each passing day, doesn't it?
Well, it's a rocket ship that I had an inspiration around. The inspiration was we needed to change this perception around who we are as hunters. We should be the best storytellers in the world. We have incredible impacts of what we do. Whether you're in Mississippi, Wyoming, New Zealand, South Africa, France, there's impacts that come from the activity of hunting. And those impacts affect wildlife, those impacts affect people, those impacts affect communities. They have all sorts of connected dots into research, you name it. And so I was like, man, we're missing the boat here. We've got such great stories. We've got such great inputs into society. Why don't we just tell everybody about it? And at the same time, debunk this narrative in the non-hunting, anti-hunting space about how hunting is terrible and how it does nothing for people, does nothing for wildlife around the world. And so we took that upon ourselves to do that as a mission. We're 5 years old as a nonprofit right now. This July, we're 5 years old as a nonprofit. And interestingly enough, we actually just changed our name, Ricky.
Really?
So we're not Blood Origins anymore. We are the Origins Foundation. And the reason we changed our name is very, very simple. Our mission is to educate the non-hunting majority about hunting, and now even take a step back, sustainable use.
Yeah.
That's what we're about. And if we had a name like Blood Origins, it works for somebody like you, Ricky. Understands it, hunters get it, it's in our DNA, it's in our blood. But a non-hunter looks at us and goes, you guys are just bloodthirsty killers, And I get it.
Yeah.
And so my mission is to talk to them. Yes, I talk to hunters, but our mission is to talk to the non-hunting majority. And so we decided to make a change. And we're young enough, we're small enough right now to make the change. And so we made the change. And we're on a rocket ship right now, Ricky. We are, as you said, we're doing things in Mississippi. We're about to do some great work in Mississippi, by the way. I don't know if I can let it out the bag quite yet. But we're doing some great work in Mississippi. We just did the largest cheetah relocation project in the world from South Africa to Mozambique. We got some field to fork pieces coming out of Australia. We've got Hunters for Hope, Hunters for the Hungry program. We just funded a Hunters for the Hungry program in New Zealand. Man, it's humbling. It's humbling, Ricky.
Well, Robbie, what's interesting, of course, people can tell from your accent, you're a native of South Africa, but you are a proud American.
I'm native Bay St. Louis. Come on, man. You know my accent's from Bay St. Louis, Mississippi.
But you're a proud American. You're a proud Mississippian, and you take tremendous pride in representing the hunting family. And incidentally, I think it's a wise choice, incidentally, to change and to drop blood from blood origins, because you're right, it does ring very true. There's already sort of a significant brand identity with us hunters about what you're doing. But if the message is really aimed at the non-hunting community, to fight back on this whole notion of anti-hunting, et cetera, and the goal is not to push them back, but it's to bring them on board with understanding the role that hunters play in conservation, et cetera. I think it's a wise choice. I think you're very smart to do that. And you're right. 5 years is young. If you think about the legacy you will leave and the opportunity for Origins to be something powerful way beyond this generation and into the next generation. And I think it's something we will need from now on to continually educate the non-hunting community. And, honestly, also continually educate the hunting community about the important role they play. So if they lose sight about that, and I don't know how they would, but some could lose sight of the conservation ethos that guides us all, I think it's wise. I think it's a great evolution of your organization.
Ricky, we have to I can't think in the here and now. I've got to think 10 years' time, 15 years' time, 20 years' time. And the Origins Foundation is going to be that voice. We already are the voice, okay? And a simple helix like I have on I'll just move the mic away right now, but you can see just a simple helix. That's our moniker. It's not going to change. Everyone knows the helix. The helix is going to stay. But we need to think long term. And yes, we speak to hunters. And the best thing that we do is we communicate information. We communicate a style of communication, and we give people facts and truth so that the hunter in the social media sphere and the digital media sphere has the confidence now to be able to engage that person who says, you guys are just a bunch of killers. Or why are you hunting an elephant? It's endangered. Oh, by the way, it's not actually endangered. IUCN has reclassified savanna elephants as vulnerable. And did you know that savanna elephants in Botswana are 3 times over carrying capacity? And if you want to learn more, go visit the Origins Foundation. To me, and same thing in a dinner conversation, right? I want someone to have enough confidence because they've watched what we've done, they've listened to what we've said. They said, I can do that. I can speak in a very gentlemanly, engaging, articulate way. And I've got enough now information at my fingertips to push back like we push back.
Right. You know what's interesting? I think I've always been this way, but I think I'm more passionate about it today. But when I do encounter a non-hunter who doesn't get it, I'm not fired up at all. I'm actually quite empathetic because at the end of the day, what it is, they just don't understand. So there's something that, something in their mind, something they've read, someone's influenced them in some way that caused them to not understand. And so I think the goal is to be incredibly empathetic and to say, hey, if you'll just open up for just a second and let me talk to you, I'll explain to you. Let's just talk about Mississippi, for example, about the white-tailed deer population and why it's important to manage that and what happens when you don't manage that, and the role that hunters play in that, and the money that we pay for services, and et cetera, and how that all accumulates to help us across multiple species. When I find somebody's got a decent open mind, I can pretty regularly convince them. They may not go out there and hunt themselves, but they may say, you know what, that makes sense. If they're closed-minded, I'm not going to change them anyway. But you've encountered both along the way. We're coming to the end of this segment, Robbie. I want you to talk to me more about that. Excuse me. when we come back on the other side. But we will continue our conversation. I think it's important to say that you have some Mississippi education, and in the last minute that we have here before we go to break, just give us that quick education from Mississippi.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to get I'm going to get rocks thrown at me from both sides here. So I got a PhD at Ole Miss. And then I was a professor in the Wildlife Fisheries Department, or Wildlife Fisheries and Aquaculture Department at Mississippi State University for 6 years. And a lot of my students are now resource managers. Anthony Ballard, the black bear biologist of MDWP, was one of my students. You've had Lake Pickle on your show. Lake Pickle was one of my students. So
yes. Yeah, I've had Anthony on the show as well. I think he's a terrific he represents so many incredible people at the department that are doing such great work, and very biology based, very data based, and they care deeply about outdoors in Mississippi. Hey, when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Robbie Kroger. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. Listen, are you looking to purchase your perfect piece of hunting property, upgrade your farm equipment, or have you been dreaming of owning your slice of heaven out in the country? Look no further than Mississippi Land Bank for your financing needs. For more than 100 years, farming families and landowners in North Mississippi have turned to Mississippi Land Bank for all kinds of financial solutions, whether it's for land, equipment, or livestock. For more information, visit MSlandbank.com or go by and see one of their friendly staff at their offices. We're thrilled to have Mississippi Land Bank as a sponsor of Super Talk Outdoors. Now let's get back over to my friend Robbie Kroger. When we went to break, we were talking about if you encounter someone who's an anti-hunter, if they have an open mind, you can have some success. And I would say that's probably the reasons that Origins has been successful in telling the story of the hunting community. And we're going to come back to that in just a second. Robbie, just to kind of lead into this segment, I wanted just to mention to you, you heard me say at the beginning of the first segment that I spent some time up in the Mississippi Delta. And dude, it was amazing because my son Jordan and I brought our 4-year-old, my grandson, his son, up to the camp for the first time. And we checked out our 3 farms and just spent some time running around, started to build a bridge. And as always is the case this time of year, we almost buried a 4-wheeler in water that we didn't expect to be there. And you know how these stories are. We were able to get it out. That is a story in and of itself. But it was great to be up there. I said I saw a lot of corn, which is an indication of the farming markets these days. A lot of farmers are turning to corn right now. I wish the situation for Mississippi farmers, I wish the situation for farmers across the United States was better. But it's a great experience, man. The opportunity to spend time in the outdoors with your son and your grandson. I can't think of a more special experience. You hear that over and over again, don't you?
Yeah, and I try and get out with my kids as much as I can. I travel too much, unfortunately, right now. But when I do get time at home, the kids are getting of age, 13 and 11 right now, that, they love it. They love to go fishing. They want to go outside. My oldest is in Scouts. He's actually got a Court of Honor tonight, which is cool. But, I think getting outside, number one, just by yourself, it reconnects you with why you do what you do, right? Recenters you. There's so many benefits. Again, we talked about benefits of hunting. There's so many benefits to us, mentally, physically, disconnecting from this crazy, fast-paced world that we live in today. Obviously, passing on traditions to your kids, the heritage that is hunting. And to get back to that conversation around antis, Ricky, when we have these conversations with these individuals, we don't want them to become hunters. And, and oftentimes I say to them, I get it. I understand why you hate hunting. I get it. But you don't have to like it to understand it. You don't have to like it to see the benefits of it. You don't have to participate in it. You don't have to do it to see the benefits of it. It's like your choice in music. You may hate heavy metal, but it doesn't mean that all heavy metal lovers are bad people. Right? It's just a different genre of music.
Hey, when you encounter the anti-hunting community, they may speak a different language and they may come from a different culture, But do their arguments all feel familiar?
At this point, I know exactly the narrative, the rhetoric of what they're going to say and how I'm going to approach sort of slowly dismantling their argument, right? Hunting doesn't benefit people. Well, I've got hundreds of examples of where it does benefit people. You guys are just killers. I love that argument specifically. So let's just touch on that, because that's often used. Hunting, you guys are just killers. You guys, you just lay everything down. Okay. Well, let's look at the statistics. Let's look at a little bit of science. National Deer Association says the success of tagging a white-tailed deer, the greatest population of wildlife that you can hunt on this planet, with the greatest population of hunters on this planet, the chances of someone buying a tag and tagging a deer with that tag is about 64%, I believe. Okay. Well, if you go up to Canada, that number is about 36%. If you then say second tag, what are the chances of you getting a second deer? The chances are like in the single digits, 1 to 2%. So if that's the, then there must be something else about it. We're not just terrible, as I've encountered when I use this argument. They'll say, oh, you guys are just terrible hunters then, right? You just don't know how to hunt if your percentages are so low. No, it's not about that. It's about sometimes we just don't feel like killing an animal. Or the animal that comes out isn't the animal that we have a license for or the one we want to take. And that feeds into probably the next greatest argument, which is even in the hunting community space, I hear this. You guys are just trophy hunters. Hunters themselves will say, I'm not a trophy hunter, I'm a meat hunter. And this is what I'll say. I'll say, it's interesting you say that. So and Ricky, I apologize, I'll use you as an example here, okay?
Sure.
Ricky, you said, hypothetically, don't anybody quote this. Ricky says, I'm not a trophy hunter, I'm a meat hunter. Okay, Ricky, cool. So, Ricky, when you go out and hunt, the very first animal that steps out, you shoot it, right? And Ricky says, no, I don't. No. The first one that stepped out was a baby. I didn't shoot that. Oh, okay. Why didn't you shoot it? Well, it was a baby. It was too small. Next animal that steps out is a doe and a fawn. Did you shoot that one? Oh, no, I didn't shoot that one. Well, why didn't you shoot that one? It had a baby with it. Like, I'm not going to shoot that animal without a baby. And then finally, an animal steps out and you shoot it. And you're a meat hunter. And I said, well, technically, you're a trophy hunter. Because you set yourself a set of criteria in which you were going to take an animal in. Was too young, was too small, was with a mother, was with a fawn. Oh, that one specifically was the right size, shape that you decided you wanted to take. Sounds like you selected for that specific animal. And that's all trophy hunting is a set of selection measures that you run through in your brain to say, yes, I'm taking that animal. And if that doesn't convince them, you ask them very simply, okay, if you want a wildlife population to grow, who do you think needs to be taken out of that wildlife population from a gender age perspective for wildlife to grow? Is it the youngsters? Should we be killing the young? Oh, no, they're too valuable. Should we be killing the females? The reproductive engine? No. They're way too valuable. What about the young males? Oh, no. They're the ones that are doing the breeding. So we should be taking out the old, curmudgeonly males, right? Those are the ones, if you agree, if you're going to increase the population, those are the ones that we can go after, right? We should be going after those. Yes, go after those. Oh, Do you know that those happen to be the ones with the biggest antlers, the biggest horns, the biggest quote unquote trophies? So you literally just agreed with me that I should be going after the old curmudgeonly males if I was interested in increasing wildlife populations over time. So
it is interesting. It is interesting that and I'm curious about your thoughts about this, and we've got less than a minute left. We'll pick it up on the other side. But as you know, we do have an issue with hunting's popularity declining somewhat. What do you ultimately contribute that to?
I don't think hunting popularity. Oh, let me rephrase it. I think that hunting, in terms of Fish and Wildlife Service, like the perceptions of approval of hunting went from 84% to 78%. I wouldn't read too much into that. I don't read into that, oh my God, we've got an issue. We've got a popularity issue. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it's an issue of what we're seeing as a symptom. Our population percentage is decreasing only because the general population of America is increasing. We stay the same, 11 to 15 million hunters constantly, right? But you've got to remember that the vast majority of Americans are becoming more and more urban, becoming more and more disconnected from nature. And so when they hear about hunting, I think they don't see themselves in it. They don't understand it. They don't understand where the meat comes from. So that would be my simplest answer.
We're visiting with Robbie Kroger, someone I've been looking forward to catching up with from Origins. It's a nonprofit. When we come back, we're going to continue the conversation. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to SuperTalk Outdoors. We're visiting today with someone I really have looked forward to catching up with. His name is Robbie Kroger, and he is with a really important effort that's really doing global work. It's called Origins. Used to be called Blood Origins, so hunters in the audience know this. But if you're a non-hunter in the audience, you're listening to this show, you probably don't hate hunting, or you wouldn't be listening to the show, because we talk about it pretty regularly. So maybe if you're listening to the show, you have an open mind. What's interesting to me, Robbie, is you mentioned it a few minutes ago when you lamented about the amount of traveling that you're doing, but you're traveling an awful lot. How do you decide where you're going to spend your time?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like in the beginning, if somebody said yes to me, we were going. Now it's just planning, right? So we've got to be thinking 1, 2, 3 years ahead. We've got projects that we are in pre-planning with. We've got projects that come to us and we're like, we look at it. Is it ready? Is there enough information around it? Does it have a controversial component to it? Controversy, obviously, in this world, in this space, as you know, drives engagement and is probably at the forefront of headlines anywhere. So any sort of controversy that we can get involved with that has an element of truth that we can shed light into, we want to try and get involved with it. Obviously, the bigger we've gotten, the more people want us to tell their story, want more of us to be, in their camp, looking at what they do, and it's tough to be in 4 different places at once. So we've expanded the team a little bit. It's not just me anymore. We have a global team. We have Wild Origins Canada, a guy called Mark Hall, who's doing amazing work in Canada. We have somebody on our team from Mississippi that you're probably quite familiar with, Ashley Ellis-Smith. She's our policy director. She works for us, and she's slowly getting involved obviously she's already involved across the United States in the work that we've done, from the public land sales issues that just went on in Congress to Colorado mountain lions to Arizona horses. But she's also starting to get involved internationally. I know she had some great conversations this past weekend with regards to Namibia, some field to fork initiatives in Namibia. So it's just a matter of, we know we need to grow our team a little bit. but we also want to maintain our personality in that we just want to be small, nimble, non-bureaucratic, and we just want to do bigger stories, bigger conservation projects, which is one of the reasons why we got involved in the cheetah project. It's very difficult. I know you asked a very simple question, and I've rambled a little bit on the answer here, but if it's a good story, we can see it. It's really a feel right now, Ricky. Like somebody comes to us with something, you can feel it. You're like, wow, there's something there. And others, you're just like, maybe not so much.
You know, what's interesting, what I'm curious about is like the cheetah project that you were involved in. Ironically, incidentally, that we watched a special documentary just yesterday with our grandkids involving cheetahs. And it was just fascinating, extraordinarily well done, I might add. But when you get onto a project like that, do you have a philanthropist or someone in that country that's super interested in this project who helps to fund it, a partner of some sort that is interested in your foundation and the storytelling that you tell? How does that materialize?
Yeah, that's a great question. The process is quite simple, and this is what we do for everything. We find a great project. So the Cheetah Project started almost 24 to 29 months ago. Somebody came to us. They said, look, we've got this project. We've got this idea. And the cheetahs were the next level for us. This cheetah project is going to be a $500,000 to $750,000 investment over the next 5 to 8 years. And so when you get something like that, you obviously have to do your due diligence on the project to make sure things are going to work. You have to do your assessments. You have to do all of your, dot your I's, cross your T's. And you've got to get to the point where you're like, okay, I'm comfortable now that if we can raise the money, this project will be successful, barring all of the wrenches that will come in it. And Ricky, the bigger the project, the bigger the wrenches.
Yeah.
For instance, we had a cheetah nearly try to kill himself twice at 10,000 feet in a caravan in the air, in which the caravan itself is moving because the cheetah is smashing himself so hard against his crate. You transport cheetahs awake, unlike lions, which you transport them asleep. Anyway, so once I've got that project to a place where I'm comfortable with it, then I have to go find the money. I am the business development guy, right? I'm the guy who's going to try and find this. And so you put feelers out, and then honestly, it's a little divine intervention that you've been working on somebody, you've been talking to somebody for 3-4 years, and the stars align. And this happened earlier this year. The stars aligned that I went to an event, DSC South Texas in San Antonio. There was a lady there who is an exceptional philanthropist. Her name is Shannon Rolston. And I stood up there. I talked about our project. We had a phenomenal little video describing the project. And then we had, unfortunately, again, you talk about these wrenches get thrown into the project that you cannot foresee. You can't ever sort of write them down to say this is what's going to happen. And unfortunately, our guy on the ground in South Africa, who was our lead cheetah guy, committed suicide.
Oh no. Mm-hmm.
And it was a blow to us. It was a massive blow to us. And he did it 4 days before this request at DSC South Texas. And it was almost like he was looking down on us because I obviously was emotional talking about it. I was emotional about the project. And now we had a greater purpose for this project. And the greater purpose was to finish it for him. And that evening, Shannon Rolston stood up and donated $200,000 to the project. And so now, and we've taken her to Mozambique. She's moved cheetahs with us now already. So really, that's the process, Ricky, is that we'll find good projects. Really, we find good projects. We assess them, we vet them, make sure they're legitimate projects. Then we go find the donors, we go find the philanthropists, and we fund the projects. And then most importantly, we story tell the heck out of them because everybody needs to know about them. That's what we're good at. That's what we need to do. That's our mission, is delivering that. So,
hey, listen, after Hurricane Katrina, in fact, I'm writing a book literally as we speak. It's done, and I shared one of the chapters, which was about spending time in the outdoors and finding yourself. But one of the things that we did is we reached out to a number of foundations, and the ones that come to mind, Robert Woods Johnson Foundation in Princeton. I actually visited them there. The Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Knight Foundation. I was the chairman of the Knight Foundation, the local Citizens Advisory Committee. They ended up donating millions of dollars in coastal Mississippi after Hurricane Katrina. But, are there similar foundations in the hunting space where and these are extraordinary, some of the largest foundations in the country that I'm talking about, but there are some great philanthropists who also enjoy conservation. So I'm curious about that.
Yeah, there are some good grant foundations out there. It's not something that we focused on yet. I've got one or two that we have gotten grants from, but you're right, there are bigger foundations out there. It's all about relationships, right? So if anybody's from a foundation listening to Ricky Matthews right now and love to get a hold of us and love what we do, we'd love to hear from you. But it's just a matter of, we're so young, Ricky. We're 5 years old, right? Imagine and this is what I pride myself in. Look back at what Ducks Unlimited was when they were 5 years old, or Dallas Safari Club, or Safari Club International, or National Wild Turkey Federation. And I'm never happy, right? I never settle for good enough. But we're light years ahead of any organization of that stature when they were 5 years old. So the future's bright, and I'm super excited about what's coming. We're literally on a rocket ship, and I couldn't be happier.
I believe, from the first time that I came to be aware of you, which is 4 years ago. So you were just getting started, and you were already telling incredibly important stories for the hunting community, about the hunting community, and you've gotten, your tentacles have continued to go out. And, what I've learned from my work in the nonprofit world, which I've been for a long time, I'll share with you when we get back on the other side. And I think you're doing a really good job of doing that. And I'll explain to you what that is here in just a second. But we're visiting with Robbie Kroger from the Origins Foundation. They're doing extremely important work for the hunting community. And we'll continue the conversation when we come back after this break. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. We're visiting with Robbie Kroger today. Great conversation from the Origins Foundations. You may remember Robbie's been on the show before. He had Blood Origins, which he actually started in 2017. And the purpose at the time was to tell the truth about hunting. And then in 2020, he formed a nonprofit. And then more recently, the name of the nonprofit was Blood Origins at the time. And then more recently changed the name for good reason. The word blood may not necessarily appeal very much to an anti-hunting and non-hunting community that you're trying to speak to. And so it's now known as the Origins Foundation. We were talking when we went to the break about all these projects that he's doing all around the world, and we'll give you a sense of what some of those are in this final segment here in just a second. But I just made the point to Robbie that one of the things that I learned, Robbie, and the work that I have done in the nonprofit community for literally almost all of my career, I've always had a tremendous commitment to giving back to the community. I've started nonprofits. I've served as chairman of nonprofits, and I've basically done it all as it relates to the local community for again, most of my career. What I have learned is that what foundations want to know is they've got a partner they can trust. Okay, that's the most important thing. They have a foundation partner that they can trust. That the foundation is doing what it needs to do, is doing the proper accounting of money the way it's supposed to be done, and that they're doing the work to bring board members on or whatever that requirement is, and that the legal side of the nonprofit, that it is buttoned up. So if you've got good accounting of the money and the legal side of the nonprofit world is buttoned up, in the work that I did, I never we never minced spending the appropriate money with CPAs and attorneys to make sure that was done extraordinarily well. And when you do that well, and then you have a mission that the foundation is assigned to, and you have a track record, and they buy, because at the end of the day, man, they're going to buy you. They are investing their nonprofit world money into Robbie and whoever
Correct.
is surrounding Robbie because of your track record. And so for 5 years in the nonprofit world that you're in, for longer than that, in the effort that you've been involved in, you've been establishing credibility. And you can't, let me tell you, someone told me early in my career in the news media that everything is negotiable except your integrity. So I think that's a really great thing to live by in the world that you're in. But that's all, this rings true to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, especially when you said you invest in the CPAs and invest in legal, because when you're a small nonprofit, those legal and CPA expenses are monstrous in comparison to what money is coming in. But we knew we had to do a third-party audit, right? We knew we had to do a third-party audit. So we do one every single year. Costs us an extreme amount of money. But we get a clean audit every single year. And so we have all our ducks in a row. We know exactly what we're doing. We are very fiscally responsible with the money we have. We don't have a lot of money, but we do extraordinary things with a small amount of money. And our track record, our authenticity, our integrity is impeccable. You won't find an organization that we don't just, Ricky, if you said, Robbie, I'll give you $50,000 to tell my story, I'm going to say, Ricky, thanks, but no thanks. Because that's not how it works. That's not how it works. We're not for sale. We're not going to sell our soul for nothing. I even said that at a donor dinner on Friday night. So we are very cognizant of our reputation. And we're going to continue to strive forward in the projects we do all over the world, from building a clinic in Zambia to building a school in Tanzania to feeding the hungry in New Zealand to what's going to come down the pipeline in Mississippi here in the next 6 to 9 months. And we're just going to expand that work and continue to do that work and showcase the impacts that come from that work so that everybody, hunters, non-hunters, and even some anti-hunters, can see the benefit that come from it.
I think it's good to have Ashley Ellis Smith on your team. She's a lawyer. She's got good nonprofit experience. I think that's excellent. That will actually, I think, strengthen the foundation that you're needing to continue to stay strong at as you go forward. But
she's been incredibly valuable to us.
Yeah, I'm impressed by the work that you're doing. And listen to the future show, and we won't wait so long. We won't wait so long to talk next time. Because we've been doing a lot of catching up this time. But in a future show, I want to go dive into some of those projects that you've been doing around the world, which in some cases takes you to places that are not necessarily the safest places in the world, but the work that you're doing from a conservation point of view is incredibly important in those places. It's been a pleasure to spend some time with you, my friend.
No, thank you, Ricky. Yeah, we'll definitely dive into a big project, maybe the cheetah project that we just finished. And I got malaria 6 weeks ago from that project. So put me in the hospital for 4 days. So
wow. Sorry to hear that. And also, when you're ready, you let me know. We'll get you back on the show and we'll talk about the Mississippi project that you mentioned. So
when we're ready,
until then, thanks for visiting with me. This has been Robbie Kroger, from the Origins Foundation. And as I always tell you before we end every show, always put safety first. For goodness sake, put safety first. Got a little reminder yesterday of why that's important. Safety is so darn important. God bless you, and we'll see you next week.